The obsessive compulsive doing type, when they're not doing something, they're worrying and planning about it. And this type is especially prone to two specific addictions: workaholism and busyholism. Well, I read this sentence in a book a few days ago and it blew my mind because that's me. And if you also recognize yourself in that, always busy, always working, always with a plan for every single moment of your day, well, welcome. Stay with me because by the end of the episode, we are going to build together a new way to stay productive. One that doesn't drag busyholism and workaholic energy along with it. So let's start. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Mary Saba. I'm a life coach and conflict mediator, and in every episode, I question the expectations we grow up with and dig into what's really hiding behind all those shirts that quietly shape our lives. As I say today, it's all about dismantling that busyholism and workaholic lifestyle that drives our life. I have to admit, it's the 15th of August. Most people are on holiday right now, and I'm writing this episode from a coffee shop in Portugal where I live instead of enjoying the bank holiday. So, yeah, oops, I did it again. But I'm working hard on taking control over my tendency to be always busy. And we'll see how in this episode. So I promise I'm doing it. Well, so to start, I don't know where you are with organizing your own life and calendar. But even if you're not particularly organized, especially if you're not, this episode is for you. Because this organization can pull you into the same circle. A pile of things to do, feeling tired, but still running on the hamster wheel. Because it's hard to even stop and ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? When your life feels like it has no room to pause. So here's what I want you to reflect on with me today. Is it really that you have no choice but to keep this busy life running? And I want to go a layer deeper with you too. Have you actually looked at what's behind the busyness if you stop? Because I tried that these past 2 weeks during a personal organization course I've done. And what I found, well, I didn't love it. But I'm going to share it anyway. I'm going to share with you the challenge I decided to put myself through to understand what's actually behind my own workaholic and busyholic behavior. So the trainer in the course kept coming back to how important it is to take real time off from work. So actually time off. He asked us to build a personal calendar for the hours outside of work, and I was completely lost. My first thought, the second I imagined not working, was guilt. And I'm talking as a freelance who built their own business. But if you work in an office and your job is demanding enough, you probably know also some version of it, like staying late, working weekends, never quite clocking out. So you can see yourself in that as well. And he asked, what could you cancel from your life to make room for the things that actually make you happy? And I froze because my life is mostly built around work. So am I supposed to cancel work? I can't cancel work because if I cancel work, I don't produce. If I don't produce, I don't earn. And then obviously I end up living in a street. And that's my catastrophic mind because that's not the reality. So as I looked at my calendar, trying to put aside the catastrophic mind and trying to shift things around to make room for that time off, I noticed something. I was actually scared of it. And to be clear, I don't mean that I have like zero free time and I constantly work. I see friends, I go for walks, I go to events, I go to cinema, but I wanted to push myself somewhere bigger than that. Because even seeing friends and staying active, somehow it's a form of staying busy. And it may fit that FOMO that we have. So I wanted to try real time off, time alone, open to do things that just feel good and don't feed the FOMO. Things that I define like not FOMO things, like reading, making puzzle, painting, time in silence, like with myself. And here's what I found. I struggle to actually find the time for myself because the moment I do, I'm no longer physically or mentally occupied, and a feeling of emptiness, loneliness, and sadness comes up. And that's the thing I actually need to look at, even if it's very uncomfortable to be there. And I also invite you to try to do that. How does it feel? Just imagine having time for yourself. Not urgency, no busyness, no working mind at all. How does that land in your body? Maybe for some of you, the answer is like, oh, I would feel peace and joy. And if that's the case, I'm absolutely happy for you. But for other people, the idea of that kind of time might be terrifying. And you might discover that behind the busy days, there's actually a real active will to run away from something. And that's the way I picture it. I imagine myself running a tunnel, chasing the white rabbit from, Alice in Wonderland. As soon as I catch sight of him, I feel reassured. And I stop running for a moment. But then I notice the feeling of emptiness and loneliness catching up with me again. So I start running after him once more. And a few years ago, my white rabbit was the city. I had so much energy that even when I was exhausted, I still had to show up to whatever the cool event of the week was. I needed to know what was happening always. And there was a real case of FOMO. But then when I was diagnosed with burnout and I had no energy at all, I realized that I could barely manage to do a couple of things per day. I couldn't run after the white rabbit anymore, even if I wanted to. And in a strange way, that exactly was forced me to finally face what was underneath. I hope that this metaphor lands the way I mean it. I mean that running after the next busy thing just helps me to not look at those emotions of loneliness and emptiness. So, do you recognize yourself in that? And which emotions are the one chasing you? And if you're not sure, because actually you never take the time to think about this, just imagine yourself in an afternoon with absolutely nothing planned. How that make you feel? Does any anxiety show up? And if it does, what is that anxiety actually telling you? Knowing you have, I don't know, like 5 or 3, like whole hours that don't need to be filled with events, friends, even your laptop. So anything, just you, I'm busy, alone. And if you're still here, it's because some of this part is actually landing for you too. So stay with me because in a minute I'm going to tell you exactly what it changed for me, realizing that these emotions were running my life. So something that helped me in this personal organization course was also understanding my own beliefs around productivity. Because at the end of the day, the white rabbit is the belief I'm running after, is the idea that I have to be busy all the time. And this question came up in the course when the trainer asked us directly, what does productive mean to you? And that's where my mind blew a second time, because I realized my idea of productivity was entirely built on quantity. So hours spent working. For me, productivity has always meant producing something that gets fast results by working intensely for a lot of hours. Once I actually said the definition out loud, and I realized something uncomfortable. The only part of it I can actually control is the number of hours I put in my productivity. I can't control the results. And I want to pause here for a second because I genuinely love to know your answer to this. What does productivity mean to you? And drop it in the comment below. I'm going to read every single one. And I think that the answers are going to be very different from one another, but they can be inspired. The trainer put it simple. Even 3 hours of work done well can be enough if it's done with real quality. And quality in its definition means no distraction, no phone, no messages, no colleagues interrupting, and no multitasking at all. So the only interruption allowed is the break you take healthily while you're actually being productive. And productivity, turns out, isn't really about being busy and working, but it's about doing the thing that make you feel good, done with quality, whatever those things are. But this idea of productivity doesn't exactly match what society tells us. Because in some places right now, it's almost trendy to show you work until 11 p.m. that you have given your whole life to your job. While myself, I'm actually trying to move in the opposite direction, living in this slight rebellious world where productivity is about quality and not about quantity. And that sounds almost crazy, like I'm feeling an outsider here. But this is because we are all in this hamster wheel where we are stuck on thoughts about work, about how we could have done more, done better, while stress, tiredness, and our actual personal lives get pushed away. And if you throw multitasking into the mix, it's even better, right? The employee who can work while answering WhatsApp, while chatting with colleagues, juggling 3 projects, they're supposedly the top performer. Except that multitasking doesn't actually exist because this is a computer skill and we're being asked to have a brain function we were never built with. So you just end up mixing things up, sending the wrong message to the wrong person, and by the end of the day, you have done 100 things, accomplished nothing, and you're completely exhausted. And actually, coming back to definition of productivity, I asked 3 friends just to see how different the answers would be from mine. And they were actually. One person said productivity is finishing tasks without interruption. Another said it's all about work for them, but mostly about following their own energy. So if they don't have the energy or focus, they'll move a task to the next day instead of forcing it. A third thread said that productivity means doing things they move their life forward instead of just feeling stuck and busy. So what's your idea of productivity here? Mine, as I said, has always leaned towards producing something with fast results, and I mostly attach it to work. But it's not just work at the end of the day. It's the same need to plan everything, always. Because if I don't have a plan, what even is my life? I think we live in a society where being busy is cool and having free time is boring, even embarrassing. Sound familiar this to you? And after this week, of course, here is what I really want to remember. Productivity is doing whatever makes me feel good. As long as it's done with quality, not measured by quantity or how much I get through. It's about doing what makes me feel accomplished, joyful, interested, passionate. I want to do things with love, with presence, with real interest in that moment. So I invite you to write in the comments what productivity means for you. And also, if there is any change you'd want to make, one that bring you more joy, connection, and fulfillment, please add it to your definition. So this week I decided to remember this about the quality over the quantity. And I decided to change my calendar. I decided to make a list and I check in with myself for a few seconds each day, asking my body what it actually feels like doing. And I split it into a few sections: body, nourishment, creativity, nature, and chill. And I'll start from there and I'll see what I feel like doing it without forcing myself to have a plan. And before I go, come check out my Eventbrite in the link in the description because in September 9th, I'm holding a 9-minute workshop on how to build a healthy relationship with your phone. We'll work through the dynamics you have with your own phone and start freeing you from the feeling that scrolling is your own option. And I know this subject is so alive in many of us, so feel free to check my Eventbrite in the description. And before I go, I also want to wish you a productive path by your version of productivity and not the one that was handed to you or taught to you. So have a beautiful time. Ciao, ciao.